It's a privilege and an honor to present to you our first speaker, future priest Deacon Yisrayl Hawkins.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. You may be seated. May the peace of Yahweh be with each and every one of you. Today I'll be speaking on the topic of follow Yahweh's way, Satan's way won't work. And if you'll turn over in your book of Yahweh's to Romans chapter 6 and verse 16, and it says, "Do you not know that to whom you yield yourselves as servants to obey, his servants you are whom you obey, whether of sin which leads to death or of obedience which leads to righteousness?" If we follow the teachings of the House of Yahweh, we show that we belong to Yahweh. But if we follow the teachings of the Catholic Church, then we show that we belong to Satan. Please turn over to Yaakov, chapter 4 and verse 7. And it says, "Therefore, submit yourselves to Yahweh, resist the devil, and he will flee from you." And Romans chapter 8 and verse 1, and it says, "Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are as Yeshua Messiah, who do not walk after the flesh, but after the Spirit. And the Spirit of Yahweh is the character of Yahweh, the image of Yahweh, and that is the way that Yeshua Messiah walked." Verse 2, "Because through Yeshua Messiah, the law of the Spirit has set me free from the law of sin and death." And this character that Yeshua brought forth was this perfect living, keeping the Sabbath, being a servant, and we must all become servants. Verse 3, "For what the law was powerless to do, in that men sought to overthrow it, Yahweh did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful man, to bear witness against sin. And so he condemned the sins of all mankind, in order that the righteous requirements of the law might be fully performed in us, who do not live according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. For those who live according to the flesh set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit set their minds on the things of the Spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. Because the carnal mind is enmity against, bitterly opposed to Yahweh. For it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, nor indeed can be." And remember, the carnal mind is against Yahweh. And we have to fight the carnal mind. We can't give in to worldly influences. Remember, because it is against Yahweh. And we can change through the teaching and through the example of keeping Yahweh's laws. Verse 8, "So then those who are of the flesh cannot please Yahweh. But you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, if the Spirit of Yahweh truly dwells in you. Now if anyone does not have this Spirit, and the Spirit is the character, as the Messiah, he is not Yahweh's. So they belong to Satan the devil." And if we give into the carnal mind, and you follow your lust, illegal lust, and what do we see today? The defilement of the earth, the firmament, the land, the water, the animals. In the 9th book of Yisrayl, chapter 13, and page 126 and verse 6, and it says, "Well, the earth is so close to dying right now, it is pitiful. If you're trying to raise animals, you see it. I just read an article the other day. You may have seen it, where the farmers in Germany, they are experiencing a new thing now, where the calves will suddenly die. The blood starts coming out their pores and their nose and their mouth, and they just bleed to death. And they don't know what's causing it. They've been facing this now for about 2 years. Studying it, and they don't know what causes it. But it's picking up more, and it's now in Belgium. So it's spreading. When the calf starts bleeding, it's only a few days. Blood starts coming out all over his body. Then just a few days or a few hours, the calf is dead. That's only one of hundreds of defilements that the earth now holds for us. And of course, Isaiah said the defilements of the earth includes the atmosphere, the firmament. Someone said it was hard for them to understand. They wrote us a letter. This, I think, was a scientist, that it was hard to understand. And I wrote him a letter back, and I said, think of clabbering milk or making cheese, and then maybe you won't have so much trouble then understanding it. Because when you open your mouth to breathe, you're breathing things that you can't see. When you set milk out, which Yahweh did this to milk, because milk has everything in it to take care of itself. You can set it out uncovered, and right away, you can't see it occurring, you can't see it take place, but you can see the results of it. And so we can see what occurs when you follow the carnal mind, and we can see it. It's the defilement of the earth. And if you'll turn over to Leviticus chapter 18, and starting at verse 25, it says, "And the land is defiled, therefore I will allow judgment of the sin thereof upon it, and the land itself vomits out her inhabitants. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and you must not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any of the strangers that sojourn among you." Verse 27, "For all these abominations have the people of the land done, who were before you, and thus the land is defiled, unholy." In verse 30, "Therefore you shall keep my ordinance, and commit none of these abominable customs, which were committed before you, and that you do not defile yourselves with them. I am Yahweh your Father." So in those scriptures we see that the firmament is defiled by these abominations that are spoken of in Leviticus chapter 18. In conclusion, please turn over to Isaiah 24, and starting at verse 4, and it says, "The earth mourns and fades away, the world mourns and fades away, and the haughty people of the earth languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants of it, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant." And remember, sin is the transgression of the laws. Verse 6, "Because of this, the curse has devoured the earth, and they who dwell therein are desolate. Therefore, the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left." And that is what we see today. The earth is mourning and fading away. And with that, I'll turn it over to future priest Shalom.